Tailwind CSS offers many built-in classes that you can reuse. In big applications, you will need a way to use these classes without repeating them in each place through the application and have a centralized usage. So your code is more maintainable, more reusable, more debuggable as well. So that's when apply comes in Tailwind CSS, and this is called Apply Directive. So what we can do with Apply Directive, let's get in our code and have a demo with this. So in our last video, we create, for example, H1 and we make it as a part of a base, but we have to write the code again by ourselves, CSS code. But Tailwind CSS offers another way so we can use their own classes. So what we can do is just to add apply directive. And for example, we can do I want text. If you remember, same when we add in class name in HTML, then we can add them here. And let's say I want my H1s to be 3XL, for example. Okay, and you can see the instances helping me out to see how much it will be. So it will be 30 pixels font size, 36 pixels inline height. And if you remember, we want it to be bold, and for bold we use font, and then we do bold. And let's save this one. And you can see my header now, it is a bit smaller because we're fighting 4XL. If I go here and do 5XL, you see it can get bigger. So now what we'll do now, any H1 in my application, I don't have to go and style it again. It will be by default having this style, 5XL for text size and to be always bold. We can do, for example, same for, I don't know, let's say H2, for example. Of course, I want to be smaller, so maybe I'll say to be 3XL to be bold. And I can do, for example, H3. And I can say I want to be, of course, smaller. So maybe keep it XL and font bold. And let's do a H4. And let's say I want it to be same size, but I want it to have a medium font. I don't want it to be bold. Okay, so now if I go here in my code, so I open here and I do, for example, a H2. So you can see here my H2 is a little bit smaller, my H1, and also still bold. So this way it will help you to really use the Tailwind CSS built-in classes and have more control on them as well without adding any extra CSS. And we'll keep going in this and you'll see how you can have more control on it and how you can add more configuration and apply your own theme easily without hard coding any CSS. Now let's get on another point where when to use this apply. Okay, so if we look at our code, for example, there are sometimes you have some elements where you have many classes, right? Like you can see this one here, which is our title of the page. Let me remove these because we don't need them anymore. So sometimes people are concerned like having big long classes names in their HTML or in their JSX files if you're using React or Vue or something like that. And they don't like it and say, okay, maybe it's better to go and use apply and then create your own class. I don't know, for example, let's say logo, right? And then you can apply, for example, all those classes that we add here. For example, I go there and I copy all these. Okay, and I just add it there. Let's say page title, for example. Okay, so I'll just, for example, do this and add this class in here, and it will still work, right? So people have different perspectives, but from my side, I will feel like, okay, the apply one should be done for classes that will be reused if you were through your app. If you have one scenario like this one, which should not be repeating, I will not have anywhere in the page where I'm using these classes together. It will be just right here, right? So I don't feel like I need to get an apply or create a different class and have apply in it and add things to it because I will not be reusing it everywhere, right? But let's say, for example, you have buttons, right? It will be through the app in many pages, in many sections in every page. And that one, of course, have many apply classes in it, and you'll be reusing it. So that maybe I would say, okay, that you create a class name, for example, called button, right? And then you have your apply, and you can keep adding the classes you need for your button there. And then when you have button your HTML, you just go and add that class name. Okay, that's for normal HTML projects. If you're using, for example, a component-based application, like in our case, we're using React, right? Maybe you're using React, maybe you're using Vue. So in that case, maybe it's preferable to create a component, which is a side component, and that side component, for example, is called button, and it will have those classes as a class name, and then you add properties to it. So you're creating reusable components which have those classes in it, and to be also more controllable. And I think it will be much better than using the apply. So it depends on type of project and scenarios you're having. You may use apply, you may use direct classes as a class name, and you may use, if you're using a component-based application, you just may use build a reusable component and add those classes to there. So there is no like a best way. It's more about how to have a clean code and maintainable, and you see how that suits your application, and you can go ahead with it. And of course, in next videos, we'll be going more depth in all these things, and we'll just take them step by step. But just keep in mind, there's nothing right or wrong. It's more about what works best for you and your team and your project you are building. And as long your code is readable and it's maintainable and easy to debug it and change things, then it's fine. It doesn't matter. But it's good that you're aware of your all ways and methods that you can do and all options you have in your plate.